So you see, it's not a political, it's a question of we as a people consistently electing people who do not know economics and tourism. So you say, okay, Gumbs, you got a big mouth, you're criticizing. Suppose you were in charge. You were basically in charge from 94 to 98. You took the country and you established the tourist board and took the country to 98 when we were #1 in the Caribbean. So what should we do? Let me tell you what you have to do, okay? If we're going to take this country forward and not have a cataclysmic disaster, I mean, the banking situation as it is will produce a cataclysmic disaster. How can we say to the people from St. Martin and overseas, who for years placed deposits in our offshore banks owned by CCB and NBA, that we have no responsibility, CCB and NBA had no responsibility for their deposits? That's the fault of the Financial Services Commission? I'm sorry, I was chairman of CCIB for many years. And there was a specific agreement between CCB and CCIB that CCB was just that, responsible to them, because they gave us money and we paid them maybe 4 or 5% on it, and then we took it out and we loaned it to the people of Anguilla who are sitting in houses today because of that money. And we loaned it at 8% or did whatever. And that is the responsibility of those banks, okay? So how you think you can take over those banks and suddenly make that responsibility vanish is not possible. And eventually it's going to be straightened out in a way that is going to bankrupt whatever bank we put into effect. This is a serious, serious problem. And the only way we can stop it is to generate our economy. You say, okay, but why has our tourism is at a disastrous point at which today, if at the end of May, all of our major hotels closed, they would not have lost a single positive dollar between now and November. Between now and November. So the most sensible thing, some of you may have heard of Curtain Bluff in Antigua. That's the way they used to run every year. They used to close the end of May and open the 1st of November. Is that the economy we want to have in this country now? Think about it. Think what the repercussions of that would be. But from an economic standpoint, that's exactly where we're headed. So you say, all right, how do we turn it around? Basically, there are 4 things that we have to do at this time. If you put it in my hand today, there are 4 things we do. The first thing I would do is I would have a very, very serious meeting with the head of the police in this country. It was easy for me from 94 to 98 to make Anguilla #1, because guess what? We had a slogan, tranquility wrapped in blue. Guess what Anguilla was? At that time, Anguilla was tranquility wrapped in blue. We had a per capita rate, we had the lowest per capita rate of tourism in the world. I had a police chief come in and excuse me, I'm crying a little. And I had a police commissioner come in when we at the tourist board complained about some minor theft in Little Bay. People breaking into people's trunks and cars and then some kids doing it and what have you. He came in to show us that we shouldn't be so alarmed about that because Anguilla virtually had no crime. And what I explained to him at that time was that when you have no crime, that only accentuates how important it is when one crime occurs and how you deal with it. So the first thing we need to do now is sit down with the police. We need to take the guns out of Anguilla. Think about it. Look at the United States. The United States of America is being destroyed. Over 400 million guns on the streets in a country that doesn't have 300 million people. And they're fighting and arguing about whether they should have assault weapons and this and that. I mean, it's insanity. Well, it's insanity in little Anguilla. Which one of us should have to have a handgun or an automatic weapon of any nature in this island? Is there somebody here that feels they have to have a handgun or an automatic weapon? Please raise your hand. I want to see it and understand why. Are there any hands?
Yes.
You feel you have to have a handgun and an automatic weapon?
No, not really.
All right. All right. Yeah.
Well, because of the nature of the job that I used to do in the past, I think I would need something to protect me.
You run a security operation within the context of what Anguilla is now, where citizens are allowed to have handguns in this country, and there is no serious draconian punishment for those who have guns. Yes, of course, as a security officer, you would have to have you would have situations in which you should be armed, just like the police. I mean, in the society I'm talking about, the police should not have to walk around with guns. If we outlaw them, and then we make a penalty of 10 years hard labor in shackles on the roads of Anguilla for anyone who is caught in the possession of one. It doesn't have to be in a crime. It doesn't have to be in anything. I assure you, there are very few people who would challenge that. And if they do, the first person that they see who is apprehended with such a weapon out on the hot sun of Anguilla cleaning the roads in shackles, believe me, the rest of them will take their guns and throw them in the sea or bury them.